What's going on, guys? Danny here from Metal Couch, and it's that magical time of year again. Yes, that's right, Metal March has begun, and oh boy, do I have a load of reviews just sitting back waiting for me to post to the... Okay, I'm lying. I don't. I really don't have much, but I do have an insider that has given me a ton of material to look at. And over the course of March, I'm going to be bringing you probably some of the best material that I have ever reviewed. I may have said this before, but I'm back, and I'm here to make sure that Metal March goes off without a hitch and with a bang. Today, we're going to be kicking off Metal March with an album that I've been meaning to review for a little over a month now. This was a band that was introduced to me by a friend of mine, and it's a band by the name of Manilla Road. Manilla Road, never even heard of them before this. Never have. I've never heard anybody ever mention them. All of a sudden, my friend walks up to me and goes, "Here, listen to this." And what I listened to was Manilla Road's 1983 album, Crystal Logic. And the only thing I can say about this album is, why haven't people heard this before? Why isn't this album known? This was an album released the year before thrash really hit it off. Granted, it's not a full-blown thrash album, but this is a pretty freaking sweet metal album that just kind of didn't get an audience. And this entire album clocks in at a little under 39 minutes. Track listing is as follows. You have a prologue, a minute and a half, with some very, very nicely done volume swells. Always been a fan of that guitar technique. Sometimes it can have a menacing kind of tone to it. Other times it can be corny. Other times it can be too happy for one's own good. Anyway, minute and a half after, you get into probably one of my favorite tracks off of this album, Necropolis. It wasn't the first song that I had heard from Manilla Road, but it's definitely one of the best on this album. A really short, fast-paced song to get you right into this album, and leading into their 6-minute title track, Crystal Logic. Crystal Logic is lyrically very power metal-ish, and at times during the chorus, the riffs can get a little bit repetitive. Granted, it's not really that big of a deal. The lyrical content, to me, kind of makes up for it. And since it kind of slowed down a little bit in the song, you would think that they would have to do something a little bit fast-paced in order to bring us back up to speed with the album in order to keep our interest, right? It's exactly what they did with track 4, Feeling Free Again. Less than 3 minutes, all-out speed. Then we cut into the 5th track, The Riddle Master, which is probably my least favorite on this album. In fact, I don't really like this track at all. It's a little bit of filler. The song just overall isn't really interesting. Kind of makes me think it was an afterthought. It just really isn't that great of a track. Nothing really notable here. And then you have The Ram, which I think probably gives out the strongest vocal performance that you will find on this album. Speaking of vocals, since I have not mentioned this yet, Manilla Road, their vocalist has I don't want to say it's necessarily a style. It's just the way his voice is. It's unique. A very unique sounding voice, and I find that the singer's voice will probably be what either allows you to enjoy this album or despise this album. At first, listening to this album, I could not stand the singer. I really couldn't. After giving it a few more listens, it grew on me. It's like when you first hear Bruce Dickinson and Iron Maiden for the first time, you think, sweet Jesus, what is that? What is that noise? Why is he singing so high-pitched? And eventually it grows on you. At first you don't like it, then you're like, okay, this isn't so bad. Then you're like, wow, this is actually pretty cool. You can definitely find a display of his vocal performance in The Ram. Then you get to track 7, which is probably their most dark when it comes to lyrics, with The Veils of Negative Existence. As stark contrast to The Ram, I do not believe vocally that this is the strongest track on the album, but it's definitely their darkest. It kind of gives a hint that maybe somewhere along the line this band could have been doom metal, or maybe a combination between power and doom, In fact, this entire album has a very strong overtone with power metal without crossing that fantasy threshold. You just have these little things, little dabs in here, like maybe some form of mysticism, especially with the track Crystal Logic and the Riddle Master. Other than that, they don't really dive too much. They're not as extreme into power metal as, say, like a Halloween album or other, or dare I even say, the lyrical content from Dragon Force. Then the last track, you get 12 minutes, clocking in, Dreams of Eschaton and the Epilogue. This song goes on for way too long, and the epilogue is after 2 minutes of silence once the song ends. So your last track's about 8 minutes long, and wait 2 minutes to get some devilish laughter and some evil-sounding riffs. Other than that, it's not really a notable closer, but I think the bonus tracks is where this album really comes in. There is one bonus track in particular, Flaming Metal System, which the title sounds ridiculously stupid. It does. To me, I hate the title of that song. It opens up with a minute-long, nothing but guitar solo wankery. In fact, this is the track that I'm going to recommend people go and listen to if they are interested in this album. Go into YouTube, search up Manilla Road, Flaming Metal System, and just listen to this song. It has some of my favorite guitar effects, a combination of chorus, overdrive, things like that. Almost tripped and fell there because I had to crack my foot. This song is definitely one of those... This really should have been on this album. It really should have been part of the main listing because it's such a strong track. Great all-around solo work. Granted, it's not for everybody. I know there's going to be a lot of people that think it goes on for way too long. I enjoyed it, though, as a guitar player. And it really is the strongest performance out of everything that I heard on this album. It's such an awesome song, and it's introduced me to this really, really underrated band. In fact, I think maybe sometime later on I may explore their discography a little bit more. But for the sake of variety, I'm not going to dedicate a major chunk of Metal March to something like this. Overall, Manilla Road's Crystal Logic is a fantastic album. Granted, here and there you do slow down a little bit. Some things feel out of place. But other than that, this is a very solid album. I highly recommend picking this up, giving it a few listens, and let me know what you think down in the comment section below. If I had to give this album a grade out of 10, I would give it an 8.5 easily. This is a solid album. I now keep a few tracks like Necropolis. Even sometimes Crystal Logic shows up in rotation, and Flaming Metal System are in constant rotation when it comes to my music library. So I definitely recommend checking out Manilla Road's Crystal Logic. And here we are, Metal March. I can't wait until the end of this month, because then I can go back to sleep.